We paid $4,500 for memories, and what we got was a nightmare. The bride's voice trembles as she holds the wedding album, flipping through page after page. But instead of joyful faces, there are blurry smudges, distorted figures, cropped heads. The images are dark, crooked, without a single photo worthy of a frame. This was supposed to be our memory for a lifetime, a day you cannot repeat. And what did we get? Blurry photos that look like a child took them on an old phone. The groom clenches his fists, his voice filled with rage. $4,500 for pictures worse than what our friends shot on their phones. This is fraud. This is betrayal. The album slams shut on the table. Inside, only pain remains. The question hangs heavy. Should the photographer return the money for destroyed memories? Their wedding was supposed to be the start of a new life together. For weeks they fought for every detail. The hall, the dress, the music, the flowers. But the most important thing was the memory. They dreamed of photographs they could one day show to their children and grandchildren. So when they found a photographer who promised premium quality and magazine-style images, they didn't hesitate. $4,500, a huge sum. But they thought, it's once in a lifetime. We can allow ourselves the best. The contract was signed, the deadlines agreed. The photographer assured them that in 2 weeks they would receive a masterpiece. The wedding itself was perfect. Guests danced, laughed, and gave heartfelt toasts. Friends snapped dozens of pictures on their phones, and even those casual shots looked magical. But the newlyweds were waiting for the real prize, the professional album. Every day they checked the mailbox, imagining how they would turn the pages, seeing the smiles of their loved ones shining back, and themselves looking like the heroes of their own fairy tale. They argued playfully about which picture would hang in a frame above their bed, and which one they'd give to their parents. Finally, the day came. The long-awaited package was delivered. The bride's heart pounded as she opened the box. Her husband put his arm around her, and together they unwrapped the protective film, lifted the album, and in a heartbeat their dream collapsed into shock. The pages were filled with darkness and disappointment. Blurry shots, harsh shadows, distorted faces, cropped figures. Where there should have been joy, there was nothing but emptiness. They looked at each other, unable to believe their eyes. The day that could never be repeated was now scarred forever. The album lay open on the table, its pages turning as if mocking them. On one photograph, the bride's face cut off; on another, the groom standing in shadow, his smile nothing more than a blur. Where flowers should have been glowing, there was only a dark blotch. Where there should have been dancing, there was half light and empty silhouettes. The bride covered her face with her hands. I can't show this to anyone. Not to my parents, not to my friends. It's humiliating. The groom grabbed his phone, his fingers trembling, but his voice was firm. We demand a refund. Full. $4,500 for something too shameful to keep. The photographer's reply came quickly, too quickly, as if he had prepared it in advance. I did my job. I was at your wedding from morning to night. You pay for my time and effort, not for each individual picture. The groom clenched his fist. Time and effort? You didn't sell us hours, you sold us memories. And instead of memories, you gave us trash. They flipped through the album again. Each page pushed the needle deeper. Even the random snapshots taken by guests on their phones looked better. There joy, laughter, genuine emotion. Here emptiness. The bride gathered her strength and wrote, return at least half the money. We're not asking for all of it. But this album isn't worth $1. The photographer's answer was even colder. All my clients are satisfied. You're the first to complain. The problem isn't the photos. It's your unrealistic expectations. Those words struck like a slap in the face. Unrealistic expectations? She cried. We didn't ask for miracles. We asked for photos where you can at least see the faces. The groom sent the photographer several images taken by friends. There they were, smiling, hugging, dancing. The quality was miles ahead of the so-called professional work. The photographer cut him off again. Amateur photos aren't art. I have a creative vision. That's how I see it. Creative vision was the final straw. Your vision turned our day into a nightmare. The groom wrote back. If you don't return the money, we'll see you in court. But the photographer did not back down. Go wherever you want. You have no case. I delivered a finished product. End of discussion. The tension grew day by day. The bride cried at night, refusing to look at the album again. Her mother tried to comfort her. Don't worry, you still have the pictures from the guests. But to her, those words felt like cruelty. She had dreamed of a fairy tale and instead received ruins. Friends offered to help. Some volunteered to testify. Others shared their photos with timestamps to compare. One acquaintance, himself a photographer, took one glance at the album and shook his head. Not even a student would turn in work like this. It's a failure. Every opinion only confirmed what was already clear. The work had nothing to do with the promised premium quality. But the photographer clung to his excuses. Each of his replies was like an icy blade. You're being emotional. I'm an artist, not a button on a camera. You don't understand the value of art. The court won't give you anything. The groom gritted his teeth. Fine. Then let the judge look at this so-called art. Let him decide if it's worth $4,500. Inside, everything boiled. This was no longer just about the money. It was about humiliation, about broken hopes, about the fact that no one should get away with trampling on someone else's feelings. They gathered all the evidence. The correspondence, the receipts, the contract, the friends' photos. The ruined album was packed into a separate box. It was no longer a symbol of their dream, but a weapon in their hands. The last message was short. We are filing a lawsuit. See you in court. The courtroom was filled with tension. On the long benches sat people, some there to support the newlyweds, others just out of curiosity. On the table in front of me lay the album. I tried not to look at it. Every page still hurt. But today it was the main piece of evidence. The photographer sat across from us, confident and cold. His eyes seemed to say, I'll win. You don't stand a chance. The judge entered, everyone rose. The hearing began. The photographer spoke first. His speech sounded rehearsed. I fulfilled all the terms of the contract. I was at the wedding all day, I took hundreds of shots. Clients pay for my time and my work. Artistic vision is part of my service. If they don't like the result, that's their subjective opinion. He spoke calmly, even with condescension. But when the judge flipped through the album, his expression began to change. On every page were blurred faces, shadows, and photos without composition. The judge frowned. Do you have any other evidence of the quality of your work? The judge asked. The photographer shrugged. This is my work. Then it was our turn. My husband rose first. His voice trembled, but every word struck like a hammer. We paid $4,500 for memories that were supposed to last a lifetime. Instead, we got an album we're ashamed of. Even the pictures taken by our guests on their phones are far better. I handed the judge a set of printed photos taken by our friends. Happy faces, genuine emotions, vivid colors. The difference was undeniable. Then I laid out the messages. Promises of premium quality. Assurances of a masterpiece we would receive. The judge read them carefully. And this was all promised to you? He asked. Yes, I answered. And he delivered none of it. An expert witness, a professional photographer, was called in. He took the album, flipped through the pages and said, These images meet no professional standard. The mistakes are both technical and artistic. Blurriness, exposure failures, lack of composition. This quality is unacceptable even for a beginner. The words fell like a verdict. The photographer tried to fight back. This is my vision. I am an artist. The judge looked directly at him. Vision does not absolve you of responsibility to your clients. You promised one thing and delivered another. Silence fell across the courtroom. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it echoing inside me. And then the decision came. The court orders the defendant to pay the plaintiffs $4,500 in damages. For a moment my heart stopped, then started racing again. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but they were tears of relief. My husband squeezed my hand tightly. It was finally over. The photographer sat in silence, his confidence gone. He looked small now, stripped of the arrogance he carried before. The judge added one final note. When it comes to moments like a wedding, you cannot play with people's expectations. The day comes only once. Responsibility lies with the one who took the commitment. We left the courtroom with the box containing the ruined album. For me, it was no longer just a symbol of pain. Now it was proof that justice exists. And this story is more than about a single wedding. It is about trust, about promises, about standing up when someone takes advantage of you. If you ever face something similar, keep your receipts, keep your messages, gather your evidence. You might think you're powerless, but you're not. So here's the question I leave you with. Would you trust your most precious memories to someone like this photographer? Or would you double-check every promise before signing the contract?